if David Lynch just made Twin Peaks, I would still think he was a great director. The fact he's done other stuff is just an added bonus in my mind. Twin Peaks holds a very special place in my heart. It's such a wholesome, in places, series. But there's something about it. It's got a soul much more so than a lot of things. And some of his films, I might upset Harry a little bit, are a bit hit and miss with me. There are some that I thought were excellent. There are some that I feel like maybe I either went over my head or I didn't get the point, which I'll get onto. Is an unusual way of looking at the films. But he's certainly a filmmaker that will make you think about what you've watched, which, as far as films go, is all you can really ask for. You know, if you're watching a piece of cinema, you want to go away and actually have to think about what you've watched rather than have it spoon-fed to you. And if you like that sort of thing, which I think most people who watch films and are actually interested in cinema, they're very much interested in that approach to things. And so there's always something to think about. There's always a way of analysing it, and it's always fun to do so. So I feel like that's my thoughts on Lynch.
Wonderful. Chloe?
Oh, excellently said. I mean, Lynch is a great follow-on from Kubrick because both of them are making films that they refuse to elaborate on. They will not explain. But I think for different reasons. Or in the case of Lynch, totally agree with you. He wants people to think and maybe even more to feel. Like there's
very much so, yeah.
There's a phrase that Kubrick used called the tyranny of the verbal, which was his way of expressing, like, if I spell it out for you, I reduce it down. I don't want to spell it out for you. I want you to think. And Lynch has this idea of the way he talks about catching the big fish, getting the great idea, is almost like he wants the idea to come to you. And the second he puts it in words, he's chopping bits off the idea. He's breaking it down into this really narrow form. And he doesn't want to do that, which is why the films are such an experience of imagery and symbol and implication. And I've looked at him before, but I feel like it's only after seeing some other analyses that I worked out how to look at him. And it's just meant that I see the films in a very different way now. It's been great sort of enjoying one level of them and then trying to feel around for what else might be going on there. So we might have completely different takes on these films as we go, but that's, I think, the joy of David Lynch's stuff.
Yeah, that's part of the point. From what you're both describing, I agree completely. When you approach a Lynch film, you get this wide variety, this vast expanse of different paths that you can go down in analysing it and trying to figure out what it means, what he meant, and most importantly, what it means to you. I think that's the most important thing that Lynch wanted from his films, is for you to have your own personal experience with it. So if he were to explain exactly what he was thinking the entire way through, it closes off all of those other paths and leads you down that one narrow path, which is much, much less interesting. And amongst that as well, there are different layers of interpretation and puzzle solving that you can go through as well, which is his films always have a baseline narrative that you can follow. And there is sometimes the mystery of what's going on in the narrative. There are ones that are a bit simpler, like Blue Velvet, where the narrative itself is very straightforward. And then there are the ones where it's a bit more complicated, like his LA trilogy, particularly Inland Empire, which I'm very interested to see what you two make of that when we get to it. But above that pure narrative interpretation, there are all of the other abstractions that you can take from it as well, where it takes on perhaps more of a symbolic meaning, more archetypal meaning with some of these characters. And as well as that, a more metaphysical reading that you can take from all of it. And I think that's all intentional, all supposed to be read into, but he doesn't want to guide you down the path. He wants you to choose your own. It's like a choose your own adventure sort of thing. So that was something that attracted me to him. I just remember the first time I watched Blue Velvet, which I finally watched after my dad had told me for years how good it was during lockdown. And the first thing that captured me was the feeling. The feeling that no other filmmaker had been able to give me, which was this feeling of both incredible lightness, wholesomeness in some parts of the film, and the dread and experiential darkness of other parts of it. And I'd never found that in any other filmmaker and wanted to recapture that. So I went through the rest of his films and have still not been able to find any other director that did it. But I think what's also unique about him is it's a kind of feeling that can only be captured through cinema. Given that he'd experimented with all of these different mediums for expressing himself, I think he had a good understanding of how to use each as it should be used. In the same way that Kubrick is a filmmaker whose stories could only be told through film and cinema and the techniques and artistry that comes with that. So I think that's something unique that they both share together, and why you can draw so many parallels between them.
Comparing Kubrick and Lynch, I think is actually quite good in understanding both of them respectively, in that I think, not to say that they don't have considerable overlap in terms of themes, but I think Kubrick is more concerned with sort of the realm of ideas. He's a bit more analytical, perhaps. Not to say that Lynch isn't, but that's sort of how I think Kubrick thinks about his films, whereas Lynch, I think, is far more concerned with expressing emotions in the viewer and giving you a very well crafted atmospheric experience. And of course, films like The Shining, which Kubrick masterfully directed, certainly has an atmosphere, but they have a very different feeling, both each of their films, don't they? And I think that particularly the way in which Lynch approaches duality, in that he has both light and dark expressed in some of their most extreme ways and contrasted next to each other. The feelings that he evokes in his films are very unique. It sort of makes him very distinct from a lot of other directors.
Yeah. See, I would say Kubrick is actually one of the only other filmmakers who's come close to capturing that same kind of
They are quite similar, aren't they?
As Lynch, particularly in films like Full Metal Jacket, because in Full Metal Jacket and some of his more satirical pieces, he has a similar feeling of the absurd that you get as Lynch, where there are these utterly depraved, monstrous characters in it, but they are so over the top, so evil, in a way that still feels true to life, that it becomes a bit absurd in and of itself. Because there are horrible, awful people, but there's also something laughable and something pitiable about them, which I think is captured in both of their works. Because really, I think both of them capture this idea that evil is corruption, evil is monstrous, but also evil is pathetic. Most of the time it's pathetic people, and that's something that we'll get onto when we get further into his catalogue, which is that all of Lynch's big villains tend to share particular defining characteristics with one another, that being that they are insane sexual degenerates. And what he meant by this, I think we'll discuss as we go on.
If you would like to see the full version of this premium video, please head over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to gain full access to all of our premium content.